Welcome back to Give 'em Truth Ministries. This is going to be part 4. Can you believe it, Trenton? Part 4, and we're not even
skipping big stuff. Yeah.
We're not even a fourth of the way through this story. It's going to be probably a long process, but there's a lot of cool things that took place. There's a lot of history there, but there's also a lot of ministry there, and that's really what I want to get to. We were just talking about that. It's cool history for us, and I'm hoping that maybe you guys are getting something from it. But I want you guys to get the ministry aspect of this. We've been talking a lot about just do something. God wants us to just do something. So last time we ended with talking about the mission trip that we went on and getting to talk to Richard and getting to talk to some other homeless people that were there and doing some of those things that we did on that mission trip. Today we're going to talk about Faux Christ and kind of work our way through that era of Faux Christ and some of the things that happened to us, some of the crazy things that happened to us, some of the really cool things, a lot of the ministry that took place, the people getting saved, getting to do shows in places that I never thought we would get to do shows in. I remember probably one of our biggest shows was a couple of hundred people, and for us that was a huge deal, and for other people that's probably not such a huge deal. But you gotta think we went from 5 people, 6 people, 7 people, and the next thing we're doing shows at we did a show at Peaceful Valley Camp. There was quite a few kids
Youth
there.
Camp, yep.
We did a few songs at another place. We've talked about it before. We cannot remember the name of the place we did it, but there was a huge crowd there, and so we just had a lot of stuff going on, and today we don't have all of the discography with us that we went through and that we have done, but I am going to show you a couple of them that we have done to give you guys an idea, show you that we're just not making everything up, and a couple other things that are another prop that I'm going to show you here. I guess we call it a prop. That's what it's going to be, but so let's talk about that, Trey. Let's talk about Faux Christ. We've kind of talked a little bit about how we started Faux Christ. Hey, you want to do a rap album? Yeah. And it was really rough for me getting started, but a lot of cool things happened early on in that. We've talked a little bit about how we saw people get saved, but let's work our way through Faux Christ a little bit and talk about how it led us to being. I guess to me, it taught me how to minister a little bit. Because we're really, when you're up there rapping, you're up there preaching, because that was one of the main things we always did in our shows was we took time in between songs, talk about the song, what it means, do some ministry, do altar calls and things like that. So let's talk about that a little bit. Where you want to
Well, you got to remember, when we were doing Faux Christ, it started as an idea to just do a rap album, right? But what eventually evolved was we were building a ministry around shows. I mean, like he said, we would take concerts, and I actually been listening this week to Faux Christ Live. I didn't even go play, y'all. I went back. That was our first live album we recorded. Like, we had several albums.
That was at the Baptist Church in Jonesboro, Illinois.
No, it was Anna. First Baptist in Anna.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It was a youth rally type thing, and we sat there, and you listen to our shows, we would always give testimony. We would always talk about the gospel, because that's what it was. It was a ministry. I mean, and we even talked about it in our music. It's not about industry, it's about ministry, because, that's what we were about. I mean, obviously we weren't doing it for money.
It was a good thing we wasn't doing it for money. Well, actually, we didn't, it wasn't that we were doing it for money, but we had hoped that it would progress into something that, we could do, like a kind of a side, I don't want to call it a job, but something on the side. But most of the money that we did make, and there was sometimes people would bless us with money. We put it all back in, to keep things going. I don't remember a time where we ever probably took hardly anything. There may have been a few times we used it to buy a meal or something that night, but other than that, we didn't really take anything from it.
So we was giving testimony. I mean, we put on revivals at churches. I mean, he was a youth pastor at one point. I was a youth pastor, and the pastors that we were under, one was the son. I think it was when you were that, and then one was the dad. Yep. So he hooked us both up with youth minister positions at those churches, because we came to Cape, and we went by the Baptist Association, because it's really all I knew where to start, and we put in talked to the lady there, and it's really, her name was Margaret.
I forgot about her. Yeah,
she made a phone call right then and there, or she sent out emails or something, because she knew there was something looking for youth ministers. So then what it ended up becoming was we became youth ministers. Nowadays they're called youth pastors, whatever you want to call it, youth ministers. We were doing youth ministry at the churches. So we took that platform and we put on revivals. We'd invite bands in. We'd preach. We'd go to each other's churches. We'd preach. And really it's the ministry part was the amazing part, because you were seeing people get saved, people come to the Lord. That's what it was all about. Like he had mentioned, and we briefly talked about it. I don't know if it was the first show or second show. He talked about Gary's daughter. She listened to because what we tried to make a point at doing in all of our CDs was ending with kind of an altar call. We'd put hip hop music behind it. We'd give testimony, and we'd kind of end it with like an altar call to give people a chance to be saved. Well, one of the parents, his name was Gary, and that's how we actually got connected with Covenant Christian Center at that time. And actually our wives' church, so who we ended up meeting through that as well. So, his daughter, he came and he talked to us one time, and he was saying, if he ever sees this, what's up, Gary? Ain't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
That's I heard he ended up in Florida, so... But his daughter, he came to us one time. He's like, y'all, I don't know what it is about your music, but my daughter was in her room, and I can't remember how old she was at that time. Maybe like 10.
I was gonna say 11 or 12. Yeah, it was around that. It was around that area. I don't think she's a teenager yet.
She's like, your CD was playing, and I walked into the room, and she was face down on the floor, repenting, bawling, getting saved.
That's crazy.
And that right there was enough of a spark to encourage us to continue doing
that sparked something in us so big.
So that's what it's about. If you're doing for any other reason and you're calling it ministry, really? It's about people getting saved. It's about the gospel message getting out there. And I remember that spark set things off. We ended up being youth ministers at churches, like I kind of just said, putting on revivals, because we were preaching too. We weren't just rapping. So.
I think too that what we were doing, it was kind of breaking down barriers in churches. And I don't want to sound like we were in there, breaking down these huge walls that people had put up or whatever, but we come in there just two guys doing something in a way that even I remember this. There was remember when we did those shows for Lamplight, and we did one at Marcy's church. Remember, and there was this older lady.
A good audience too.
There was an older lady out there, right? And she had her walker. You remember that? Had her walker in the air doing this.
I don't remember that, but I do remember Marcy.
We made these things so much fun, and we brought it to a level where everybody just loved it. And it wasn't nothing necessarily I think we were doing. It was just that I think God was moving so much in our concerts and in those places that even the elderly and the young kids and the middle-aged people, they were all loving it. They were all enjoying it, because we wasn't up there doing something that wasn't glorifying God. They may not have really loved the music we did, but the ministering we did through the music is what was touching a lot of people.
And I remember a lot of the adults or the older people that was getting into our music, they coming to us stating that the reason they liked it is because they could understand what we were saying, unlike other rappers.
We wasn't going.
But you also got to remember though that when we did this, it was the first of its kind in that area, at least that I know of. I don't know of any other Christian hip hoppers, so it was brand new, and everybody was loving it. We went and did shows in places.
Remember, we went and did a show in one place, and they're like, "What kind of music you do?" And we're like, "Oh, we do hip hop." And they're like, "You're going where to do hip hop? You do realize where you're going?" And we're like, I don't care. They booked us. We're going to do it. And it ended up being a good show. And I think they even blessed us with a check, blessed us with some money or whatever. But, it was one of those things. And that was another example of we're just going, it breaks down a wall. Whatever we were doing was breaking down a wall. And I think it was, if I'm being honest, I think it was just a pure obedience to God to just go and do it.
And it developed a type of unity. People at the shows, like I said earlier in one of our videos, that we fed off of each other's energy. So, even if the crowd wasn't getting into it when we first got started, because they always ended up getting into it.
Yeah,
but
they were always started, like this.
We would get into it ourselves, and we'd feed off each other, and then next thing you know, everybody's into the music. Yep. And it developed a sense of type of unity where people could fellowship. Let's say
we were each other's hype man. We didn't have a hype man, doing something for us. We did it ourselves.
You gotta remember, this is brand new, so people are obviously coming in as a critic to see if they're gonna like this or not. So I mean, but the ministry, I mean, I remember it was like a movement. We actually, well, that was mass communication. Remember we had a street team at one point. So, but that got into the mass communication area, so I don't want to jump ahead too much. But I mean, it was brand new. I mean, he had came up with the name Faux Christ. I mean,
I think you come up with Faux Christ, didn't you? I came up with mass communication.
You came up with Faux Christ. You came up with Christ-like, and you came up with a lot of our album titles. I think the only one I did was Rewinding the Future. I came up with that one, but the rest of the titles, and I might have come up with Farewell, but he had come up with our group names and stuff, and we just rolled with it. He's like, just take the R off. I remember you approached me, just call it Faux Christ, so because that's what we were about. So, but overall, I mean.
It was fun.
It was fun. People's lives were being changed, and that, like we said, it built another form of excitement. So, I mean, whatever. God used that era to do a lot of things. So
let's talk about these a little bit. We don't have all of our CDs with us here today, but we had Christ-like, and hopefully I think I have a copy of Christ-like. I'll try to find it maybe for the next video. We'll backtrack a tad for the first couple minutes. But we had Christ-like. We had Notorious Christians, which was probably one of my favorite albums that we had done.
Then we done that one.
Yeah, we had Rewinding the Future, which was...
It was kind of a remix.
Remix album.
With some new tracks on it. That's the one I showed you.
We had the live album.
Oh, yeah, we did 2 live albums. They were kind of after Christ-like, and then one was like after Notorious Christians or something. We did the live, then this one came. Then we had the Farewell.
Yeah, Faux Christ Farewell. And this one right here must be that as well, because it says it in the back, Summer Explosion 2004.
Yeah, that's what that is.
So I'm going to go ahead and show that too. You go ahead. And
before that came out, though, remember we had solo albums. We did
yeah, we did.
That wasn't as much, though. I mean, people wasn't as into that, I think. So,
that was more something
we quit splitting it.
We did on our... we wanted to do something different on our own. It was fun. And... Yeah, mine was called Christ Out, and yours, I don't remember what yours was called.
Styles of Hip Hop. Because I just took a whole bunch of styles of hip hop and just rapped over them.
So yeah, we didn't really do too well with those albums. But anyway, this one right here, bringing it a little bit close, this Faux Christ Farewell, that was, we took that picture. That was probably one of our last concerts, wasn't it?
As Faux Christ.
As Faux Christ.
Yeah.
But anyway, why don't you go ahead and set that up just a little bit, and then I'll bring this other thing that we have in, and tell us kind of about what happened that night.
Summer Explosion 2004. I only remember that because it's on the cover. But this was at Marcy's church. It was outside, or wait.
No.
This wasn't at Marcy's.
This was something completely different that...
It was a battle of the bands.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
And I don't even remember where it was at, to be honest.
I remember thinking, like, how are you going to have a battle of the bands and it's going to be Christian? Because you're making people, you're automatically inserting competition into your title. But we did it. I mean, we took it.
How many was there? It was like 4 or 5 bands?
Well, I think there was only 3. Was it Convicted? Us,
and then there was that ska band, the ones that were running around, jumping off of the stage.
What was their name? I don't even remember their name. I had it and then I lost it. They were Soul something, right?
They were like reminded like the OC Supertones type music.
Yeah,
a little bit, but it was a little more wild than that.
Soul Christ? I don't remember what the name of them was, but there was 3 of us there, and they were only going to give out 2 trophies, so one went home with nothing, right? So I'm like, what are you guys thinking? I mean, we're trying to create unity, and you're creating division, right? So, which he became my brother-in-law. Josh Ditto actually led the band Convicted, and they were there, and they ended up getting first place. I remember that. I mean. And because they did put on good shows, so, we didn't got no problem with that. And then, we
were there to have fun.
We actually didn't plan on placing.
No, because we were the only ones there that showed up, and all we used was the mics.
And we
had
rapped.
No instruments.
Everyone else was rock or whatever he just mentioned, like Supertone style.
It was like
music
ska, I think is what they called it, the ska.
So, I mean, we just kind of showed up. We weren't actually expecting to play Shaw. We were just having fun. It didn't even matter to us about the trophies or nothing. But, I mean, I wasn't really even expecting a trophy, but...
Well, here's what happened. We won, y'all.
We got second place. So,
out of 3. So,
but rather than create division over that, we did get the trophy. We did get second place. But really, a lot of it, I think, had to do with just the crowd. Like I said, it created a unity. That was the kind of atmosphere we automatically set up when we did shows.
We didn't go into any concerts, and I don't want this to sound wrong or bad, but we didn't go in there and just try too hard. Mm-hmm. We went in and we had fun.
That's all we did.
We went in with the mindset of we're going to get in there, we're going to share the gospel, we're going to get the crowd hype, and we're going to get off stage. Mm-hmm. And I think, and if I remember correctly, but the other group was not. I remember looking at their faces whenever we won.
Soulified. That's the other group.
They wasn't. I don't think they were happy that they didn't.
They were
play.
mad. This is why I was like, y'all shouldn't have created the band battle. Of the bands.
I think they were doing it for fun, but I think somebody's feelings got hurt because I think they were looking at it as like all they did was get on a mic and rap. Mm-hmm. But I was like, well, I didn't see you rap. It's not as easy as it looks.
It kind of created like a small division. I mean, we were there, we were friends with these guys, and we did some other shows like CrossFest. They were at CrossFest. We did a lot of shows. We did some other shows with these guys. But after that point, I don't remember ever seeing them after that point again. But it's
now you should tell them who Convicted turned into. So I guess
Convicted, actually, if you guys know, and now Convicted has changed band members a few times, but Hope for the Dying, if you're into Christian metal, that is who was originally Convicted, and that's who we're talking about. So
the music style was not like it is now.
Some of you may know who that is because they're actually on what is it? Face Down Records or something?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it is. And but out of California, they are on a label. That's my brother-in-law, my sister's husband. That's who it was. Originally, Convicted started out more or less kind of like a Cutlass, I guess would be a good comparison, type of rock.
I don't think they liked you compared them to Cutlass, remember?
And then it turned into metal, so, but,
So yeah, go check them out. Hope for the Dying, the stuff's, I'm sure it's still on iTunes and Amazon or whatever. But
Amazon, yep. They got a label, so they get promoted a lot, so, but that's who it was at that time, was...
We never made it that far.
No,
our glory days are right there in the second place trophy, and that's fine with us.
But then you get into a transition that happened. I don't know how far you want to go today.
Well, let's we'll kind of veer from Faux Christ a little bit because I want to get into talking about college a little bit. How we wanted. Well, anyway, and then how we met our wives, I guess. We met our wives first, and then we kind of went away to college. Let's just talk a little bit about that, and that's where we'll close it here in about 4 or 5 minutes. But
granted, they weren't our wives at that time.
Yeah. But we wasn't even planning on doing a concert, I don't think. And this was, okay, let me tell my backstory with it a little bit. It was the 4th of July, and I always go to my dad's on the 4th of July because my parents are separated. So I would always go to my dad's on the 4th of July. It was just the holiday I spent with my dad. And I had called my dad and said, hey, I'm not going to be there because we were going to Whippoorwill Lake. Here in Missouri, and we were going to go hear, I think it was Gary's band. I can't remember all those details.
We actually got invited to rap.
But when we got there, they didn't want us because what they really wanted was bluegrass music, and nobody there was doing bluegrass music.
Well, I don't know that they actually told us not to get on stage. I think we made that decision. We're like, we're not going to rap here, y'all. So
if they weren't comfortable with the contemporary Christian music that was being played, they weren't going to like hip hop. So we had everything ready in the car. We were going to set up and do it, but we went there with, in my mind, I was not going to find a girlfriend or anything. I was just, Trent said, hey, let's go do this. And I was like, well, I go to my dad's, but all right, yeah, I'll cancel this time. Best move I ever made, Joe. Listen to the Holy Spirit. Because we got there and, okay, we're going to be real for a minute. There was other girls there. We're guys, we wasn't there looking for...
We were there to do ministry.
Yeah, we were there to do ministry, but we just wasn't, I don't know how to say it, we wasn't looking for that one special somebody that day. There was other people there, and
it just kind of happened.
It just kind of happened, I guess.
And at that day, there was no mention of any of that. I mean, it was just, we met, that's where we actually met our wives for the first time. So. And
I remember them playing, and I remember talking to them afterwards a little bit and saying, hey, we do rallies and things like that. You guys, you have a band that was Not Ashamed at the time. With a couple of other friends from church at the time, Andy Yunt and Justice Yunt. Mm-hmm. I think that was the only two, yeah. And so they were doing shows, or we asked them to do some of the shows that we were doing, and they ended up coming. And I think I was working for your dad at the time, and we started talking down there. We were working together, some staining, some siding or something. And we're like, hey, wouldn't it be cool?
Those guys we were working with, giving us heck about girls. Yeah. We're like, well.
And then we're like, I think we were driving in the car one day, and before we had met the twins, and said, wouldn't it be cool if we married twins?
2 days prior, y'all. 2 days.
And then we meet these girls. We meet these girls like 2 days after that.
Who ended up being twins.
But at the time, we didn't even think about it. You know, we
Yeah.
wasn't really there necessarily to find girls that day. You know, there was other girls there that day. It's not like we were just focused in on these two girls. I mean, I don't even think it really crossed our minds a whole lot.
Not that day.
But now later that week, we started thinking about it a little bit.
Yeah,
I was like,
guys set up a time to hang out and. Well, actually, no, it wasn't at that point. We actually did some shows.
We did 2 or 3 shows before we actually really started talking and hanging out.
Baldwin Cross put something on, I think, shortly after that, and that's where we kind of.
Yeah, I think it was there. We had kind of like set up a hangout at. I
don't think we set it up. I think Baldwin did.
No, I'm talking about hanging out with the girls and getting to know them a little bit.
Rather get into all the mushy stuff. I mean, but yeah.
Well, long story short, there we met our wives, which I'll probably have to bring in at maybe some point in the next couple of videos and let you guys meet them for those of you that have never met them before. But we met them. We started hanging out. Well, this was also about the time me and Trenton were looking at going to Liberty University.
Which we've briefly mentioned before, if you remember his reaction.
I wanted to go, but I didn't want to go. You know, I was like, I kind of wanted to go because he was going, but I didn't want to go because I'm a home person. I like to go away, but 2 weeks tops, I'm back, you know. So
12-hour drive.
12-hour drive. And the first week that we're there, we're like,
back.
Hey, you want to go home and see the girls? So we go back and see the girls again.
To drive back.
And then the second week, we went back again.
Now, you got to remember, the second week, though, they were doing a show, and we got invited. It was at Taco John's in Anna. Well, Josh had invited us to do a show, but we told him we'd be at college, we wouldn't be able to. We ended up showing up. And my parents didn't know he was coming. They were a little mad at me at that point because I didn't tell them I was coming home, but... we actually was,
I forgot all about that concert, yeah.
So, but, the struggle of 12 hours apart and distant relationships and other things.
I remember the next morning we went to church at Covenant Christian Center at the time, Covenant Life Church now, where I'm still at. We went to church there. We were in the back. You stood up and you looked at me and you said, "I'm coming home, man." And I went, my words exactly was, "You ain't leaving me there by myself. I'm coming home too." So
we went back to Lynchburg because we had to get our stuff.
Drove back, got our stuff in the same day.
They were making fun of us, man, because we left and they're giving up because of the girls. And
they're like, "Oh, you'll be back." You remember Artom? He was my roommate. I
remember Artom.
He was Russian.
And I had a couple roommates that I don't even remember their names, but I remember, like, one was Jeremy or something, and then there was another one, and they were like, "Oh, man, you guys are going to give up all this for girls?" Like,
yep.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, I think at this point, and it was early on in our relationship, like months. We'd only been dating for a few months, but when you know, you know. And I know some people say there's no way you could have known, but when you know, you know. And I knew. I knew she was the one, and I knew that Liberty was not where I was supposed to be. So I packed up my stuff. We canceled class, canceled everything. Said we're quitting.
My dad was mad at me for a little bit because all that was on credit cards.
My mom wasn't happy either, but it was. I think in the long run, they looked back and they knew that it wasn't what.
I think my dad later told me that he called it. He's like, "Oh, you won't make it 2 weeks." He told my mom
it just wasn't
2 weeks.
I think in some sense we were both looking for something. Mm-hmm. And I think we had found it in the girls and the twins. I think we had found part of what we were really looking for.
Now, we did meet that one guy out in Virginia who gave us his card. I think it still might be in my wallet somewhere, but I don't. He was doing some sort of ministry. He caught us in the parking lot. You remember that?
Mm-mm.
It was a black guy. He came up to us out of nowhere in the parking lot. We were actually looking for a job at Dick's or one of them sports stores or something, and he was talking about, I don't know, it was global ministry, some sort of global, I don't remember what it was called.
I remember that.
Or world something, I don't know what it was, but anyway, he handed me a card, and I remember that is one thing I do remember about Liberty. And I remember getting to meet Jerry Falwell, because he died shortly after.
We did meet him, so that was one cool highlight.
So we shook hands with Jerry Falwell. He died I don't even think it was a year later. He passed on, so they found him.
If it wasn't for going to Liberty, I never would have found the group Deep Space 5. So there was some good things. Some good things for me.
I think it was meant to happen, but for the short time it happened.
I think it was part of something we needed to realize, that we needed to get out there and realize that there was still other stuff we needed to do here. We weren't supposed to be there,
and that was a lot of it. Home is where you make it. Joe Dirt's not totally out of sense, but he said, home is where you make it. So, but at that point, it was time to go home. So
a lot of good stuff happened in that time. We met our wives and happily ever after ended the series. All right, bye everybody. No, no, there's a lot more stuff we're going to get into next time, but for now we're going to have to close this out. A lot of information, man. A lot of ministry stuff in there. So
when we transitioned into mass communication, like we'll talk next time or something. Then a whole nother world opened up. Yep. So there was a whole new
group of people that we met. People we never thought we would meet.
Still connected. We're still connected.
We ended up doing shows. Places we never thought we'd do shows at. And being accepted was one of the cool things. But anyway, let's not get into that too much.
Not
anyway, today. This is Give 'em Truth Ministries.
Sneak peek, y'all.
This is Give 'em Truth Ministries. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. I'm gonna say it again. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up. We appreciate y'all watching this, or I appreciate y'all watching this. After you get done with this show, go check out Next Level Freedom Church and check out all the shows that Trenton's got going on over there.
Subscribe.
And also, me and Trenton have a new show right now called Let's Talk. I'm not sure.
It may be up by this.
Hopefully, this will probably go up this next Friday. But anyway, so if you get it up before then, go check it out on YouTube. It is called Let's Talk. It's me and Trenton talking about the scriptures, interacting with each other, and we're going to be having some special guests on in the future, doing some different things. It's going to be a little bit different style of a show than this. This is more just kind of a casual hanging out, talking about our history, talking about some ministry. And I just want to end it with this. We're getting kind of long in the thing, but get out and do something. Get out and do something. It's time to move. I've been seeing it all over YouTube. I've been watching different people talk about it. 2018 is the year that God wants his people to step up in a way they've never done before.
You're a double portion, y'all.
That's what this is. I'm trying to step out in a way that I never thought that I could ever do it. And I'm just trying to do something. And I know, some people may say this is that's just a cheesy way you're doing it or whatever. But I'm doing it. And this is what God's asked me to do. So I'm just stepping out and doing it. So I want to encourage y'all, step out and do something for God, whatever that is. Just make sure God wants you to do it. Don't step into something God doesn't want for you. Make sure it's God's wanting you to do it. So until next time,
God bless.
Peace out. We love you guys. Keep checking out my videos. I appreciate it. Bye.
Peace.